46 years in the making, the story of an ordinary girl living a life less ordinary. The story's mine. The storytelling is courtesy of the genius that is Nick Warren. I was 22 when the job I loved almost killed me. I'd started age 12, a Saturday girl at a hair salon, and I loved every minute. Talking to people, listening, keeping things tidy, keeping things running. By 16 I was an apprentice. By 19 I'd opened my own salon. My teachers didn't get it, but by then I knew that there were different kinds of smart, different kinds of happiness. Dream big, that was my first lesson, but back then I didn't understand it. I got married, I bought a house, and I built the business. It was beautiful. I got to transform people, I got to hear their stories, and I got to watch them leave as their best version of themselves. But then I began to lose the feeling in my hands and feet. Life got hard, and then harder still. It was my body that was failing. Eventually, the doctors put a patch on my back, a controlled test. 90 minutes later, and my wrists were bleeding. It turned out my body was reacting to the perm lotion. It was closing in on anaphylactic shock and something way more final. So no more business. And what do you do when your future disappears? You make a choice. I stood up straight, I lifted my chin, and I started again. I got a job at a local bank, 15 hours a week, a 6-month contract, and then my marriage ended. No more marriage, no more different kinds of happiness. And now the only stories I heard were the ones in my head. The small voice telling me that I wasn't enough and whispering about mortgage payments. The bank job became full-time. The contract became permanent. Enough to buy a house, but not enough to eat. And so I moonlighted, selling tickets at a local nightclub. One night a man came in looking for a free pass. He was big and angry and not on the list. I knew that because I'd made sure of it. He was seeing a friend of mine who worked there, but she'd had enough. She'd asked me for help. I asked the guy to step aside and he got angrier, nastier. He picked up a bottle and he held it over my head. And I heard the small voice whisper, "Not enough, not enough, not enough." But I made a choice. I stood up straight, I lifted my chin, and I let him see me. My breath too shallow, my heart too fast. I let him see me not back down, and I watched as he stepped back. You are stronger than you can ever know. That was my second lesson. But back then, I didn't understand it. I waited for people to see through me, but it never happened. One day, a newly qualified mortgage advisor got scared by her first real customer. And I stepped in and took the meeting. No A-levels, no degree, just a kick-ass MVQ in hairdressing. The meeting took a long time, but the customer appreciated my attention to detail. He was kind. He said as much to my boss. And I got the job full-time. In time, I won Leader of the Year, but I still didn't believe. I kept smiling and working, waiting to be found out. An imposter in borrowed skin. The small voice always whispering, "Not enough, not enough, not enough." And then I got pregnant and the world turned on its axes and I learned what love really was. My daughter was my miracle. Scarlett is my North Star, a truly different kind of happiness. She was 9 months old when I found the lump in my breast. More doctors, more tests, more division. I gave up work so my partner could pursue his dreams. Her father left 3 days before my pre-op, an affair. So there I was, an unemployed single mother facing surgery. I wept until 3. And then I dried my tears Because what do you do when your future disappears? You make a choice. I got a job 4 days later, interim managing director, 138 staff, and I negotiated hard, desperate, double my normal rate, and 2 days off the following week for training. The training went well. The day after the hospital released me, I was back at work. I stood up straight, I lifted my chin, and I started again. And that's when I learned the last lesson, that I was enough, that I knew what to do, to talk to people, to listen, to keep things running. And if you want to understand a big business, run a small one. 3 months turned into 6, and I found my replacement. I moved on, and I did it again, and again, and again. And now I coach others, leaving a legacy to make Scarlett proud. I still feel doubt. I still hear the small voice, but I won't let it drown out the lessons of the last 46 years. I won't let it become the voice in Scarlett's head. Because this is for you, my darling. Dream big, stay strong, be kind, and always remember, we are all someone's miracle. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Nick Warren. You are a legend.